We're broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios. Middle Tennessee Electric, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is the WGNS Action Line. Talking Rutherford County news
since 1947.
The WGNS Action Line. Now your host, Scott Walker.
This morning, guest in studio from Murfreesboro Medical Clinic, or MMC, and we'll be talking audiology. I can't speak. It's almost like a Monday, but it's a Friday. But we'll be talking about everything dealing with hearing and hearing loss. And I guess hearing loss is one of the main complaints I bet you hear a lot from people about. Megan Schleisler is with us today, Director of Audiology at MMC. And then also we have Nicole and Sarah, the practice administrator and also the supervisor of the department. And Megan, just starting out, what is the biggest issue or complaint you hear from patients at the department?
Most often we hear patients come in with complaints of ringing in the ears or having difficulty hearing their spouse or family members, hearing in large crowds like restaurants or family gatherings where there's a lot of background noise. So that's primarily what brings people into our office when they have concerns about their communication with their loved ones, or if they know somebody who has communication problems with their loved ones.
Hearing's kind of a big deal.
It is a big deal, yeah. It's what connects us to our world and our people. So yeah, it's definitely a big deal.
For those listening, if you have any questions regarding hearing, you can text those in right now at 615-893-1450. And tell us a little bit about your background, Megan. What got you into this department? What led you down this path?
Yeah, if you know an audiologist, you probably know that they have some sort of connection with the hearing world. So I'm originally from Chicago. I went to school in Illinois, and we moved here about 8 years ago. But the reason I became an audiologist is because of my sister. She was born with a severe to profound hearing loss. So I've always been around somebody with hearing loss and know that connection of how it impacts your family. So it was something that I felt very strongly about, and which led me to become an audiologist. Me and my husband moved here about 8 years ago from Chicago, and I've been with MMC since.
Are people sometimes surprised when they get a diagnosis, when they, learn the facts that actually it's true, you can't hear very well, and this is the path we're going to go down next?
Sometimes, most often when they come in, they know they have something going on, but it's mostly the spouse or the family members that notice the hearing loss first. So when we have these conversations about diagnosing hearing loss, we like to talk with the family members and kind of talk about the whole scheme of what they've been experiencing. And most often, like I said, it's the background noise, because we do live in a very noisy world. So that is definitely something that most people have complaints about. And then the family says, I talk to them, they're not answering appropriately, or I'm always having to repeat. So we like to get a good comprehensive evaluation and then talk about how the hearing loss could be impacting their everyday life.
And of course, that ongoing thought of, I've got to repeat what I say over and over again, or he or she can't fully understand what I'm saying sometimes, that can get aggravating. So I could see where that could also lead to other small issues in your life throughout your life.
Yeah, so we do find that people are withdrawing from everyday activities. We hear a lot of times people are not going to their small groups at church or not going out to restaurants just because they cannot hear and they just feel very isolated. So giving people their hearing back, whether it be hearing aids, cochlear implants, or any other type of assisted listening devices, it's truly impactful and life-changing for some of our patients. So I'm so excited that I get to be front row seat to that.
It's got to be so irritating for the person who's going through that and struggling through that, especially if they're the type who don't want to admit, I may have a hearing problem.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I always tell my patients too, you never know what you're missing until we give it back to you. So once they start hearing better and they notice how much they were missing, that impact just becomes that much stronger.
One of the questions that somebody just texted in, it said that my ear has been aching on and off for about 2 weeks now, but not severe enough, at least I don't think, to go to the ER or anything like that. At what point should somebody stop waiting and then actually see a doctor?
That's a great question and a beautiful segue to talk about how audiologists also work hand in hand with ENT specialists. At Murfreesboro Medical Clinic, we have an audiology and ENT department, so we work hand in hand to create a comprehensive plan. But in regards to earaches, there's lots of contributing factors that could be associated with an earache. I think that if it's impacting your life, not being able to sleep or chewing, definitely see us. We will take a look and see if maybe it could be like a TMJ or jaw issue, or even like a sinus or an allergy issue that could be causing a little bit more of an earache. But regards to anything about your health, if it's impacting you enough, we're happy to see you.
Earaches are one of those pains that's so aggravating. In the moment when you're having it, it seems like nothing really helps. I mean, Tylenol, they don't really seem to help a whole lot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost like you can't see it because, you can't see your own ear, right? So that's why it's definitely important to come in and see us so we can take a look and see how we can help you.
Another question we had here, it says, my wife says, I constantly say what during conversations, but I feel like I hear her just fine. Is that denial common with hearing loss, or is it just me?
Very common. I hear that quite a bit. I can hear, but I can't understand. Typically, with hearing loss, it starts in those high pitch areas, like the S sounds, TH sounds. That's what's give us the clarity of speech, which leads to understanding. So not being able to hear is not being able to understand as well. So not necessarily denial, everybody has their own journey, but we're definitely here to help you see if you do have hearing loss, and then we can talk to you how we can help you. We hear it a lot, but that's why we are here to help.
Somebody saying, I hear, but I can't understand, that's got to be really aggravating. I mean, because you would almost feel like, I hear exactly what they're saying, but sometimes it just, maybe I'm missing some words in between their sentences or what they're trying to say.
Yeah, so I tell my patients that our ears are responsible for collecting the sound. If our ears are not working as they should, like with hearing loss, your brain isn't able to get all of that meaningful information. So there's almost like a disconnect between the gathering of sound and your brain understanding the sound. So in order to fix that, we have to help your hearing loss so your brain can get all that information so we can start understanding better.
This time of year, a lot of people are suffering from allergies because seasonal allergies, if you live in Tennessee, are a big problem. And they're a big problem for a lot of people. But how do those seasonal allergies impact the ears?
Yeah, definitely seasonal allergies. 'Tis the season, right? So, I tell my patients that our whole head and face is connected. So anytime there's something that is compromised, it tends to compromise something else. We do have something called an eustachian tube that sits in the middle of our ear to the back of your throat. And if you have nasal congestion or draining, sometimes that tube gets closed off, causing some ear pressure. So this, again, comes into where an ENT and audiology work together to figure out, hey, this patient is having some ear pressure. We found that there is some eustachian tube dysfunction. Let's get you over to see ENT to see how we can help you with your symptoms.
We've got a lot of text messages, and I guess I didn't think there'd be that many right off the bat, but hearing really is truly a big, vital.
It impacts all of us every day.
It does, big time, yeah, because if you can't hear correctly or you can't hear part of what somebody is saying, it does kind of destroy the conversation in a lot of ways.
It does, yeah. The conversation flow doesn't happen. You're withdrawing from conversation, which that disconnects the human connection.
So do some people really get to that point where they literally withdraw from groups they're involved in, or
Absolutely.
It does, and unfortunately it does happen, and it's sad to see, but also it's so impactful when I'm able to help somebody get back into those conversations and those groups that are meaningful to them, and I love it. That's the best part of my job.
It can really degrade your life overall. I mean, if you're missing out on what people are trying to talk to you about.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
We had recently a patient that worked with Megan who was activated with a cochlear implant, and she had quit a career that she had worked really hard for, and post activation of her cochlear implants was able to start pursuing getting back into that career post activation. So, I mean, you have people who withdraw from things that they love and are passionate about just because they can't communicate in the same way that they they once were able to, and then to watch them on that journey and then watch them get their life back. It is incredible. It's just an incredible thing to see.
That's a pretty intense move to actually quit your job. When she first came to you, did she think, or was she under the impression that she was able to hear for the most part and she didn't have this bigger problem of not being able to hear to where she needed that implant?
Yeah, so this patient, she's one of my favorite patients. She came to me. It took her a year before she decided that she wanted to do the cochlear implant in the particular occupation she had. She was a nurse, and she had found that she couldn't understand her patients. So she ended up going into being a mail carrier because she didn't have to talk to anybody, right? So when I saw her, we counseled. She came in with her mom, and then it took her a year before she was like, this is something that is truly impacting my life. And as Nicole said, one of her goals after implantation was to get back into nursing. And I am so excited to say, as Nicole said, she is back in working as a nurse, and she's doing wonderful. She's got bilateral cochlear implants, and she's doing great.
Quality of life massively improved.
Oh, massively improved.
Patients that you see there, do they not fully grasp and understand how big of a problem it was until they get that help?
Yeah, going back to family members who are the first people to notice those impacts because they know that they're talking to them and not having those correct responses, or they see firsthand that these patients or their family members are not attending things that matter to them. I definitely feel the family takes a huge role in that.
You always hear people joking about my wife. He says, I forget stuff at the store. I told him to pick up whatever it was and he didn't get it. He claims he didn't hear that. But that joking, sometimes there's some truthful facts that are part of that problem.
Yeah, exactly. All joking aside, not able to hear also leads to memory issues, not to scare anybody, but like dementia. There's a big correlation between hearing loss, or at least untreated hearing loss, and dementia. If you're going to get dementia, of course, those are the cards you're dealt, but we can definitely help subside those symptoms by helping treating your hearing loss. So these memory issues like forgetting your grocery list or what your wife told you could be alleviated by getting some help for hearing loss.
And when you're talking about patients who come to you with these hearing problems and then they leave with maybe a first-time hearing aid or something along those lines, and their life really does get better, what age group are we talking? I mean, are we talking some who are fairly young?
Yeah, so we are finding that the age of hearing loss has decreased quite a bit just because our world is so noisy. We have wearing headphones. We're so connected electronically that we're finding that the age of onset of hearing loss is getting younger. But I also say that hearing loss does not discriminate age. We also have a pediatric audiology portion of our practice where we do diagnose kids as well. So that impact can happen at any time. But I definitely think that the age of hearing loss, or at least when we're finding hearing loss, is getting a lot younger. And that is a common theme throughout the entire audiology community.
There's so many age groups out there who grew up listening to headphones, their Walkman, from that to listening to podcasts, and then it goes on and on. But there are so many segments of different age groups over the last, I'd say, 40 years or so that listen through their headphones nonstop. That's got to be a contributing factor in some way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we also hear a lot of the times, I went to too many rock concerts, and when you're young, you don't think that, I got to protect my hearing. So I definitely think that wearing headphones, but also working where we have patients that have hearing loss in one ear because they only wear a headphone on one side with talking to on the phone. So all of these things, this is why we have this comprehensive evaluation to kind of figure out what's going on, any red flags that we have to address, but also the noise exposure is a huge factor for sure.
This may be a stupid question, but you made me think about it when you said that about talking on the phone. For example, when I talk on the phone, I've got to have the phone in my right ear. If I hold it to my left ear, it's like I can't comprehend what they're saying.
Sure.
What is with that?
Yeah, that's also another question we get. People feel like they have a dominant ear, and that's just because maybe one side of the brain is just working a little bit differently than the other. We know, like, growing up, you're either right-sided brain or left-sided brain, so I think that's probably where that comes from. More often than not, we have a symmetrical hearing loss, meaning like you have hearing loss in both ears, but people just feel they have a dominant ear.
that's normal.
It's normal, yeah. It's normal to feel that way or have that sensation.
You know, there's no cool stories you could come up with or make up with hearing loss. You know, like if you break your leg or something, you always come up with, I was helping an old lady across the street and car hit me.
Yeah.
There's nothing cool you can come up with
No,
for
it's
hearing
not
loss.
glamorous, that's for sure. Sometimes we do have those stories where somebody was around a firework and it caused hearing loss. There is something called a sudden sensory neural hearing loss, where it's a virus that attacks the ear. We don't know why this happens, but that's also another thing that is more urgently needed to come in and see ENT. So there could be a cool story, but it's also like, we don't want that to happen either.
Going back to not hearing particular words that people are saying or things, parts of sentences, because the next question, it goes back to that question. In fact, there's two other questions about it too. So I'm just going to get to this one, but it says I can hear people talking, but sometimes I cannot understand the actual words they're saying, especially in restaurants or crowded places, which you highlighted. But again, going back to that basic, I can hear people talking, but not everything that they're saying. That sounds like that's one of the biggest issues right there.
It is one of the biggest issues, and it's the biggest indication of having some hearing loss. Going back to that high frequency or those high pitch sounds that we're not hearing, again, that gives us the clarity. So you're not getting those sounds. You're thinking they say dog versus dogs, which could change the sentence. So that fatigue of trying to constantly try to figure out what people are saying is definitely consuming on the brain as well.
So going back to, it's probably not dementia when you're in your 30s to 50s. If you think you can't understand the sentences that somebody may be putting together, it's not necessarily that you can't understand it. It's the fact that you may not be able to hear every single word they're saying correctly because of a hearing loss.
Exactly. Yes. Some people say, I think my spouse is mumbling. And I was like, well, they might be, but there's also some untreated hearing loss here that could be perceived as mumbling because that crispness, that clarity is missing from that hearing loss.
I guess it just amazes me that a lot of people come to you and they say, I can't understand what somebody is saying. I feel like I'm hearing everything. And it just kind of baffles me that that's one of the biggest things that you hear.
Yeah, it truly, if I had 10 patients today, 9 of them will say that exact same thing.
And it's not a matter of IQ. It's just matter of hearing.
It's a matter of hearing. Yeah. One thing leads to another. And that's just what happens in healthcare as well. We got to treat one thing to help the other thing.
So when somebody is told you're probably going to have a hearing aid of some kind, I know there's lots of different types of hearing aids out there, but I bet a lot of people, there's a certain vanity aspect. They don't want a hearing aid because of the way they think it looks.
Yeah, it's not only the way it looks, it's also, if I get a hearing aid, that means I'm old. And we know that's not true. As we said before, hearing loss does not discriminate age, but the size of hearing aids have gotten a lot smaller. The technology behind it is a lot better than it was, say, even 5 years ago. But I tell my patients as well is that your hearing loss is much more noticeable than a hearing aid. If you're not actively engaged in those conversations, you're not answering questions appropriately. Unfortunately, we don't think that they're not hearing. We think that they're not paying attention or they're being rude, which of course is not the case, but that's definitely something that we want to attack sooner than later. But no one gets excited about wearing hearing aids, and I totally understand that, but there's a lot of fun features inside there. The technology has made leaps and bounds even since I started becoming an audiologist.
Well, like what you mentioned, you may be having a conversation with somebody and that person thinks you're being rude because you're not responding to their questions correctly of whatever they're asking, but it's not because you're not listening to them. It's because you're missing certain words, certain keys, certain tones, and you're just not hearing them.
Exactly. Yeah. And like I said, your conversation partners typically don't think that you're not hearing. They think that you're just not paying attention. And I don't want anybody to ever feel that way.
When you get that diagnosis of having that hearing problem and they say, I don't want a hearing aid, but if I have to have one, do you have one that looks like a Bluetooth device or something along those lines? What do you have? I mean, because you talked about a huge variety of different hearing aids.
Yeah, so we carry all manufacturers. We work with most insurance plans. We carry all styles. When we recommend a hearing aid, we typically recommend according to hearing loss first and foremost, but also lifestyle. What are your biggest complaints? Is it background noise? Is it hearing your spouse? Is it just one-on-one conversations in general? We really try to fit the hearing aid to the person and not necessarily one size fits all. We take in consideration of the patient saying, I don't want anybody to see it, so there's different colors and there's invisible solutions. I think the hearing aid manufacturers are doing a good job with making things smaller because the visual aspect of wearing hearing aids is definitely a obstacle that we are well aware of.
So with your health insurance, does most health insurance cover that hearing aid, or is there a certain type of insurance you have to have in order to cover an hearing aid?
So part of our workflow at MMC is to call your insurance before you come in and see us for a hearing aid consultation or even a cochlear implant evaluation. We want our patients to be well informed when they come in and see us. I can say that most Medicare Advantage plans typically have some sort of benefit. There is something out of pocket usually, but Advantage plans definitely have something. Medicare traditional, like red, white, and blue Medicare, unfortunately does not cover any hearing aids. And then if you have a supplement, it's typically if Medicare denies, the supplement will deny. But we do call all your insurance to make sure that we know what is covered and what's not when you come in and see us.
For those who are like under 50, a lot of them have just traditional insurance through the workplace or things along those lines. Do those traditional insurance carriers, do they provide stuff for like hearing loss?
Yeah, so it is plan specific. Blue Cross sometimes partners, it depends, like I said, on the plan, but they sometimes partner with third-party hearing aid discount plans that we also work with. But again, we do call each and every patient that comes in to know what their insurance covers.
Interesting. And then going back to the whole I can't hear you, I'm missing parts of the conversation. And then like you said, one person even quit their job because of this issue of not being able to properly hear. And when you start hearing all these stories, it's got to feel good at the end of the day when you make that impact on somebody's life where they're able to go back to work. They're able to maybe not even get into fights anymore with their spouse because of this whole hearing issue.
Yeah. And we have a joke as audiologists that we are marriage counselors as well as audiologists because we're always hearing, well, my husband has to have the TV on so loud and now I wear hearing aids, so I need to hear, the TV turned down. So going home at the end of the day, knowing that I did help my patients is definitely a good thing on my part for sure.
It's the why.
It is the why.
It's the why behind what we do.
Yeah, that's got to answer so many questions for, your partner, for your spouse, the manager of the company you work for, or whoever. I mean, it's got to really mend a lot of fences. It has to help.
Yeah, for sure. Seeing that impact every day between myself and my team and what we do every day and seeing that with our patients is truly a blessing.
One of the questions we had here was in regards to cleaning their ear. It says, I clean my ears with cotton swabs every day, even though some people say not to. Are Q-tips really that bad for you?
Gosh, yes. So, the old saying, never put anything in your ear smaller than your elbow. The thing about Q-tips is that you're introducing a non-sterile environment inside your ear. So we don't know what's on that Q-tip. You could be introducing infection or bacteria. You also don't know what's beyond that ear canal. You could be pushing something closer to your eardrum, and then we're in a big pickle. So we don't recommend using Q-tips. If you have concerns about wax, again, coming in to see us so we can take a peek and see what we can do to help you should you have wax. We have a wax removal, of course, but I don't recommend using Q-tips.
Another person asked, a friend told me to put warm olive oil in my ear for pain relief. Are any home remedies like this actually recommended or approved by doctors?
No. Again,
that sounds scary.
No. So our ear canal has a certain pH level. We don't want to change that pH level because that's what controls our ear health naturally. So creating earwax, making sure that pH level stays neutral is very important so you're not getting those ear canal infections or fungal infections. I would not put any home remedy or olive oil in your ear. Again, if you have any questions, please see us.
That's scary to think
Well,
about.
and also, I mean, it could be something else. So if you call our office, ENT and audiology, we are together. And so if you call in and if you've got a question, our team is trained to know which group to put you with. And we work in the same department together. So our team truly collaborates. You know, they meet each other in the hallway and go, hey, let me run this by you. And they're putting a plan together for each patient on the, you know, right there on the go, in order to help best meet that patient's need. So having this group that works together, and they may think that it's hearing loss, and then Megan may see something and she's like, oh no, we need to grab one of our, you know, APPs or one of our surgeons and we need to look at this. So having that access to care and then being right there together to meet our patients' needs, it's one of a kind.
I could see where that make a huge difference, especially if you do have to go to 3 additional doctors because of one problem that leads to another.
Yeah, it's for us, I think as an organization, MMC is always trying to find a way that we can meet our patients where they are and impact the patient experience. And one of those things is, how can we make this visit the most beneficial for the patient, right? Because as you said, you know, you start having 2, 3, 4 appointments and people are like, that's financially impactful to me. And so they may decline to move forward with care because they're making other considerations. And so we try to be incredibly mindful of that. And we try to have our team work together to give that patient the best care at an affordable price.
And again, we're talking about hearing related issues this morning, and somebody texted in, they said, great job, Megan. Somebody,
Thank you.
and then we also had another one here. How do you clean out your ears if you think you can't hear because of earwax? So I guess they're asking, is there anything simple you can do at home?
So there is something over the counter. It's called Debrox that we typically recommend for patients. You can start there. That what that does, it doesn't necessarily move out the wax, but it softens it. So when you do come in and see us, it's easier for us to remove that wax.
And again, with us this morning from MMC, Megan, is it Schisler?
Schisler, yes.
Okay. Director of Audiology at MMC. Also, Nicole and Sarah, both with us as well. The practice administrator and the supervisor of the department. And we'll do one more question, and then we'll take a quick commercial break. But another question here, talking about ringing in the ears. They said that they constantly have ringing in the ears. They said it seems extremely common today, though. But what are some of the biggest causes behind this whole ringing in the ears thing?
Yeah, that's another big one that we see is the ringing in the ears. Tinnitus or tinnitus, you know, tomato, is a symptom of an underlying cause. So usually that symptom could be hearing loss. Hearing loss and tinnitus go hand in hand. It could also be something simple as earwax infection. It could be sinus or allergy related, where again, that whole system is being compromised. But this is definitely the number one reason why most people do come in and see us is because of that ringing in the ears. It's a good ENT and audiology is a great place to start for that, to see what we can do to help you. But we do have to treat the cause to help with that symptom of ringing in the ears.
And that ringing in the ears, when people come in and say that, is it like a high-pitched, non-stop sound they hear, or what does it sound like to folks?
I've heard it described as bacon frying. I've heard somebody playing the xylophone. I've heard crickets. People usually describe it whatever they're hearing. It's hard for us to know because, of course, we can't hear, like, say, if Sarah has ringing in the ears, I don't know what she's hearing. So describing that sound, that internal sound that they're hearing, could be anywhere from, again, baking frying to high-pitched crickets, yeah.
And so whatever that sound is, I guess some people may just live with it, thinking or assuming it's just something they're hearing, and it's something really there.
And we can help that. You know, we can help alleviate those symptoms.
Very good. Again, this morning from Murfreesboro Medical Clinic, we are talking about hearing loss and hearing-related problems. If you have any questions, you can text those in at 615-893-1450. But we're going to take a short break, and then we will be right back.
This is WGNS Action Line. FM 101.9, FM 100.5, AM 1450, and online at WGNSradio.com.
This is Bud Rakes, former principal of Smyrna High School. I'm a resident of Adams Place, and I recommend that you come and visit us here at Adams Place. It's a great place to be. I enjoy it here and spending my time. I just don't think you could beat it for a place to spend time and be thankful that the Lord's allowed me to be here that long. And, of course, I would encourage anyone, if they're looking for a place, to look at Adams Place, because they'll have a hard time beating it.
35 years. That's how long your family has trusted my family to care for your pets. Hi, this is Amanda from Animal City. Get your pets. New Year off to a great start with some fresh accessories and some new toys. Even though it's wintertime, our baby bird nursery has a lot of wonderful occupants. If a new feathered friend is in your future, come in and see us at Animal City. Stop by and get the best quality pet gear in town. Come see us at Animal City, 919 Northwest Broad Street in Murfreesboro.
When I eat healthy, I can eat at Demas's. When I want to eat unhealthy, I can eat at Demas's. If I'm in the mood for pasta, I go to Demas's. If I want steak, I go there. It does not matter what I'm in the mood for. This is Peter Demas. The only thing we don't have is fried food. So it's very easy when you want to take a group out and there's that veto power person who's like, I don't want this. Well, we usually will have something that they want because we have such variety on our menu. The only thing we don't have is fried food. Demas's Restaurant on Northwest Broad Street.
I'm a single mom, and as you can imagine, it's a fight sometimes just to get out the door. But when I need new tires or something's wrong with my car, I need to head to someone I can trust. I go to Tire World.
Tire World, we keep your family rolling.
Tire World, locally owned and operated.
Life changes, then it changes again. Hi, I'm Edward Jones Financial Advisor Lee Colvin. A job loss, change in health, or loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure that you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Stop by our office in the Public Shopping Center on South Rutherford Boulevard or give us a call at 615-907-7056 for an appointment. Edward Jones, Making Sense of Investing, member SIPC.
This is Chip Walters, and I'll have Middle Tennessee football and basketball games for you right here.
MTSU Sports on WGNS AM, FM, online.
This morning from Murfreesboro Medical Clinic. There's always so much to say whenever you come back from a break to bring everybody up to date on who's with you and all that stuff. Is it ENT and audiology, or is it just audiology?
Comprehensive ENT specialist and audiology. It's a mouthful, but we like to accentuate that we are a comprehensive group.
Easy enough. And again, Megan Schisler is with us today. Also, Nicole and Sarah, all part of audiology. And if anybody has any questions, after the show, if they want to set up an appointment, do you have to have a referral to get into that department?
Usually with, again, insurance specific, but usually most patients can come in without a referral to come in and see ENT or audiology.
So upon making that phone call, that's when you're going to get their insurance information. That way when they come in, you'll have a better idea of how extensive you can go with maybe even getting a hearing aid.
Exactly, yes.
Next question says, my grandfather refuses hearing aids because he says they make everything sound unnatural. Has hearing aid technology improved over the years? Sounds like maybe the grandfather got maybe a hearing aid years ago and he didn't think everything sounded correct.
Right. We call those ITD hearing aids, in the drawer hearing aids.
Is that what most of them end up?
Yes. We hope not. But I like to just remind people that coming in to get an updated hearing test, one, would be the best thing to do, and two, making sure those hearing aids are programmed appropriately to that hearing loss. Yes, hearing technology has made leaps and bounds over the years, but there's a lot of factors that come into play when a patient says that it sounds unnatural. This is a good segue to talk about cochlear implants. We do have a cochlear implant center at Murfreesboro Medical Clinic, and we typically recommend cochlear implants, or at least the evaluation, when hearing aids are no longer beneficial to our patients. They say we can't make things loud enough in order for a patient to understand. So this is where we start talking about surgical solutions like a cochlear implant versus a traditional hearing aid.
So when you say implant, where are you implanting implanting the device and everything?
Yeah, so the implant itself goes inside the ear, called the cochlea. That is our hearing organ. So there is an electrode that gets placed and woven into this cochlea to replace all of those hair cells inside the cochlea that have been broken. So we're giving that cochlea a stronger response to sound by delivering, or almost essentially replacing, all of those hair cells to stimulate that auditory nerve.
After you get that, can you still do those everyday things people enjoy, like going swimming? And do you have to worry about the shower? What do you have to worry about?
The implant itself goes underneath the skin. You will never see that. You can shower, sleep, swim, all of that fun stuff. The external portion is what you would treat like a hearing aid. You know, there's batteries that need to be charged. You want to make sure that you keep that away from being submerged into water. You're going to treat it just like your hearing aids. The manufacturers of cochlear implants do have waterproof solutions. So we know that swimming with your grandchildren or going on beach vacations are very important. Again, making those connections with your family members. So these are other solutions that we have that you can wear your implant and still hear your family.
So if you get the implant and you don't wear it to go swimming or whatever the case is, do you then have a total loss of hearing, or is it back to where you used to be?
My surgeons are wonderful. They do everything they can to preserve any hearing that you have left inside that ear. But there is a risk that any residual hearing that you have will be almost gone. So if you are not wearing your external component, you won't be able to hear on that side of the ear. For adults, we only implant one ear at a time. And during your course of activations and appointments, we are evaluating and monitoring your progress to know if maybe a second side is something that we can talk about. But most often, patients wear a hearing aid on one ear and a cochlear implant on the other side.
Again, starting with that hearing aid at whatever age you may be, is that usually the best option or the first option?
It's usually the first option, especially for insurance purposes. We want to make sure that, the least road traveled is going to be a hearing aid, right? It's not a surgical option. But if that hearing aid is not providing your benefit that you are looking for, a cochlear implant could be something that we can discuss. And if you want to talk about life-changing technology, that truly is life-changing.
We only have like 1 minute left.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
As we close this morning, if somebody does make an appointment, they come by, they see you, they need a hearing aid, how long does it take to actually get the hearing aid?
Usually about a week. We just order it with our manufacturers and they're here and they're on their way.
And best way to make that appointment is to do what?
We have several options. You can call us at 615-867-8110. You can go on our website, request an appointment, or if you have the patient portal, you can send a message and say, hey, I need to see an audiologist or ENT. So come see us.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
And again, with us today from Murfreesboro Medical Clinic, or MMC, we have Dr. Megan Schisler.
Schisler,
Kind of got it right that time.
Yes.
And then also with us, Nicole and Sarah from the audiology department there at MMC.
We can definitely help for hearing loss.
This is a WGNS Action Line.
Since 1947. 1947.
Your good neighbor station.
Hi, this is Nick Hayes with Toots Restaurants. Visit Toots.com to order online, for delivery, pickup, or check out our new merch. Toots.com.
Hi, this is Wade Hayes at Toots Restaurants. By now, you probably know we've been open over 40 years in the oldest full-service restaurant in Murfreesboro, but we're on our 23rd year in Smyrna.
Hi, this is Jack Hayes with Toots Restaurants. Toots, good food and fun since 1985.
Good food and fun.